You're standing inside a mountain. The rock walls press close. The air is cold, damp, and completely still. Your torch throws a single flickering ring of orange light, and just beyond its edge, darkness. Total, absolute darkness stretching back into the earth for hundreds of feet. And then you see it. A bison, 10 hands wide, painted directly onto the stone above your head. Legs mid-stride, nostrils flared. So alive it looks like it might move. You didn't come here to admire it. For roughly 40,000 years, your ancestors painted on cave walls. They crawled through narrow passages in complete darkness, climbed rock ledges, and squeezed their bodies into chambers no modern human would find comfortable. They carried fat-burning stone lamps. They ground ochre into powder, mixed it with animal fat, and blew it through hollow bones onto walls deep inside the earth. The question isn't whether these images are beautiful. They are. The question is, why here? Why underground? Why in chambers so remote that most humans would never see them? For most of the 20th century, the dominant answer was simple. Art. Early humans had crossed some cognitive threshold, developed symbolic thinking, and started expressing themselves creatively. Cave paintings were the Paleolithic equivalent of a gallery wall. That explanation felt satisfying. It was also almost certainly wrong. David Lewis Williams spent decades studying both ancient cave paintings and the ritual practices of indigenous sand people in southern Africa. What he found was something far stranger and more purposeful than artistic self-expression. The caves weren't studios, they were portals. Let's be precise about what that means. The walls of a cave in many Paleolithic belief systems were not solid boundaries. They were membranes, a surface that separated this world from another one. A spirit world, an animal world, a source of power that could be accessed by the right person, in the right state, performing the right acts. The painted animals weren't images of animals. They were the animals themselves, partially emerged from the rock. This is not a metaphor. It was literal belief. And the evidence for it is embedded in the paintings themselves. At Lascaux in southern France, a cave system discovered in 1940 and dating to around 17,000 years ago, many of the painted animals appear to emerge from natural cracks and bulges in the rock. A bison's spine follows a natural ridge in the stone. A horse's flank swells from a convex protrusion in the wall. The painters weren't working despite the irregular surface. They were working because of it. The rock's natural contours were the animal trying to come through. The painter's job was to help it the rest of the way. Genevieve von Petzinger, a paleoanthropologist who has spent years cataloging geometric signs at cave sites across Europe, found something equally unsettling. Alongside the animals, across dozens of separate caves spanning thousands of years and hundreds of miles, the same abstract symbols appear repeatedly. Grids, spirals, dots, hand stencils with fingers bent or missing. These are not random decorations. They are consistent. They travel, and they match with remarkable precision the visual patterns that human brains generate during altered states, during trance, fever, sensory deprivation, or deep rhythmic drumming. Your ancestors were almost certainly not sober when they painted. This is not speculation. It is neurological. The human visual cortex, when deprived of external stimulus or pushed into a trance state, produces a predictable sequence of geometric images called phosphenes. Dots, grids, spirals, parallel lines. These are hardwired into human neurobiology. They appear across cultures and across time because they are generated by the brain itself, not observed in the external world. The geometric signs at Chauvet Cave in France, which at 36,000 years old contains some of the oldest known cave paintings on Earth, match the phosphene sequence almost exactly. Whoever entered that cave and made those marks was experiencing something, and they were encoding it. So let's reconstruct the scene. It is deep night on the surface. A small band of people has gathered at the cave entrance. One person, not just anyone, but someone with a specific role, a specific training, a specific function in the community, enters the cave alone or nearly alone. They carry a small stone lamp filled with animal fat. The lamp provides just enough light to move by, but not enough to illuminate the full chamber. The darkness is overwhelming. The silence is total except for the drip of water and the sound of breath. They go deeper. Past the first chamber, past the second, down through a narrow passage that requires crawling, into a part of the mountain where the air barely moves and time seems to stop. And there, in that sensory void, they begin. The drumming, if there is any, comes from outside, transmitted through the rock itself. The isolation does the rest. The visual cortex begins to generate its own input. Shapes appear on the walls. Animals move in the flickering light. And the painter begins to trace what they see emerging. David Lewis Williams called these individuals shamans, not in a vague New Age sense, but in the precise anthropological sense, specialists in accessing non-ordinary states of consciousness in order to perform functions for their community. Healing, hunting knowledge, weather prediction, negotiation with forces that ordinary perception cannot reach. The painted animals were not trophies. They were not hunting maps. They were records of contact. This reframes everything, including the hand stencils, which appear at cave sites worldwide, from El Castillo in Spain to Cueva de las Manos in Argentina to sites in Sulawesi, Indonesia. A hand pressed flat against the wall, pigment blown around it, the hand removed, a shadow of presence left behind. Why would anyone do this? The most compelling interpretation is also the most human one. The wall is a membrane to another world. Pressing your hand against it and leaving a mark is an act of reaching through, of touching something on the other side, of saying, I was here, and the boundary between here and there was real enough to touch. Some of the hand stencils at El Castillo date to more than 40,000 years ago, making them among the oldest known examples of human symbolic behavior on the planet. One of them may belong to a Neanderthal. Let that settle for a moment. The impulse to reach towards something beyond the visible world may predate your species entirely. Here's the twist that changes how you read all of this. For the last several centuries, modern Western culture has drawn a firm line between art and ritual, between the aesthetic and the sacred, between beauty and function. We put paintings in galleries behind glass. We separate the made thing from the meaning. We look at images and ask, what does this represent? Your ancestors would not have understood that question. For them, the image was not a representation of the thing. The image was the thing. Painted on a membrane between worlds, activated by the right person in the right state, it was real. It functioned. It did something. The Paleolithic cave was not a gallery. It was a machine. And here's where it reflects back on you. You still do this. Not in caves, but in darkened rooms, theaters, sanctuaries, meditation chambers, concert halls where the bass frequencies move through your chest and something inside you responds before your conscious mind catches up. You still seek out controlled sensory environments designed to move you past ordinary perception. You still leave marks, photographs, messages, posts, as acts of saying, I was here. I touched something. The technology changed. The impulse never did. You are standing in the cave. The torch burns low. Something moves on the wall. And for a moment, just a moment, you are not looking at a painting. You are watching the boundary get thin.